Hello everybody, I'm Sig Trent, game designer, co-creator of Everyday Heroes and game explorer for Sig Trent Games. Today I'm going to update you on what's going on with Sig Trent Games in this week 35 of our operations, offer a bit of game designer advice, and talk a little bit about my life and what I've been playing. All right, let's start out with the game news for the week. It's not super complicated, but I'm very excited because I finished Shotgun Fantasy last week in terms of the first draft. So all the words that are needed to make that a game have been completed. And that doesn't mean it's finished. I still need to do what's called a final draft, and I need to send my final draft to a proofreader so that we can catch any little errors and problems that are in there. And then it needs to go into layout, and there still needs to get some art so that we can do the layout, and then it goes out to PDF, and then you can get it into your hands. And then we have to work on figuring out how to make sure we can do print on demand, and then eventually to actually print books for it. So there's a lot more work to be done. But it's a very exciting milestone. I was celebrating that last week on the Discord, and I had hinted that I was pretty sure that that was going to happen on last week's video, and we have indeed hit that milestone. I'm really excited. So really good stuff there. I did start working on my final draft, so I did the editing for the introduction section, which was very simple. I also took some fan feedback that was in there. I had copy and pasted some material from the old core rules, some basic feats and things like that that needed to be in there, I thought, to have a complete set of character generation tools. And, I didn't edit those for kind of more modern language because they're from way back when. So I had to go and do that. And then a couple other little things that people pointed out. Like I didn't put the default ability scores for some of the new skills, which is very important, of course. There is a chart in the back of the book in the conversion section, but the fans hadn't actually seen that yet. And that has that, but it really should have been up in the introduction as well. So we did that. Default ability scores for skills aren't something that I love about 5th edition. I tend to be like, well, whatever ability score makes sense for the situation you're in and the skill that you're using, you should be able to free to mix and match. So I made sure to include some language, but people expect to have the default in there. And it's an important part of character generation, so we did include that. Anyway, little things like that you catch, and just tightening up the writing and making it more understandable and going, oops, I left something out, and all that kind of jazz happens during the final draft process, and just little tweaks on the names of things. I'm probably going to change the names of a bunch of spells, and there's a lot of work to do there. And I'm excited to get started on that, but I kind of had to shift gears and work on some other things, which we're going to talk about. Contract work. So I've got an ongoing contract that I'm doing. It's a pretty big one. It's going to take me out through the end of the year, and I've got a deadline coming up in about 3 weeks. So I got to meet that. I had to put off some of that work last week to finish up Shotgun Fantasy. And so I'm a little behind on where I want to be. I'm not like behind on the project overall. It's going okay. But I like to be a little bit ahead of the game, and I'm not really there at the moment. I'm sort of more catching up with where I should have been last week. But it's going well. It's a fun project. I'm enjoying the writing. It is for another game, another company, so I'm a little less certain, but it's also a little bit less mechanical, even though it was said, hey, we need somebody who's good at mechanics. This is a little bit more informational and world building and inspiration and stuff like that, which I love doing. So that's perfectly cool by me. But it's a little bit of a different kind of work. I don't know. I'm having a good time with it. The work is going pretty well, but I do have a pretty blistering pace that I need to set along with all the other things that I'm doing. So a little bit of a challenge, but not one that's a problem so far. So good. I also got verbal agreement on another contract, a much smaller one, but still a fun one nonetheless. And it's doing stuff for Everyday Heroes. So I'm looking forward to that. That also would probably, you'll see that early next year. I'll talk about it as soon as I actually have a written contract for it. But right now it's just handshake. So, it's not in the bag until you put pen to paper kind of a thing. So anyway, happy about that too. It's really good to get some of that contract work. And this will be a fun one. It's just a small little project. So it'll do like a week or two to do that one. And I love little bite-sized things. With Sig Trent Games, after we get Shotgun Fantasy to kind of the place where I want to be, we were going to do some smaller PDF products and some just little thises and that's kind of things, just because A, it's going to be a nice little break for me, B, I can fit it in between the contract work, and C, just more products out there for fans to kind of engage with and see what we're all about, right? But we will start working on another bigger project at some point in the future, but we're not ready for that yet. I need to get a certain way with Shotgun Fantasy and see how sales are going for that before I commit to anything else that's going to cost a lot of money to start putting together, right? Okay. Next up, Night Magics. I didn't get to work on that yet. It's still there, and we're going to attack it with great ferocity as soon as I have the opportunity. That opportunity is probably not this week or next week, probably the week after that. So towards the end of the month around Halloween time, I'll be able to really go into that. Once I know that I can meet my deadline on my other projects, then we're going to get in there. Because that one doesn't have a hard deadline. It just needs to come out around the time that Shotgun Fantasy does, so that these two products are not like meant to be used with one another, but they cover some of the same rules ground, and they enhance one another, right? So there'll be a great pairing to come out together. All right, what else have we got going on? I think that's about it for Sig Trent Games. It's been, a headlong rush in writing, headlong rush in creative work. It's been awesome. Been really enjoying it. I am feeling the pressure a little bit from kind of trying to meet these very ambitious word deadlines every week. It's good, though. It's good for me to do that, and I haven't felt burnt out by it. I just feel some of the pressure, right? So we'll see how that goes. I may have to give myself a little bit of a slack sometime soon, not quite have so many words to get done, and do just some different kind of stuff, work on some marketing stuff, or go look for the art, that kind of thing, just to switch things up a bit. But so far, so good. I'm going to stay at it as long as I can. All right, next up, game design tip of the week this week. This is a little bit less about game design. It's just more sort of career advice or general advice for working. I don't know. It's just what came up this week for me, and so I thought I would share it with you. And that is developer communication is today's topic. I think communication skills and communication with the people you work with is maybe the most important thing in almost every job. Not necessarily in doing the work, but it's the most important thing for long-term success of any project and any endeavor, et cetera, et cetera. So communication is super important. It's something you should always be trying to get better at. It's not something you can ever be perfect at. So I just wanted to share some of my thoughts about the kind of communications you should be aware of and the kind of communications you should be doing, and some tips and tricks in regard to that as a game developer. All right, and I say game developer because that includes writing, design, producing, any kind of job in which you are taking a part of the creative process in creating a game work of some kind. It's pretty vague, but communication often is. All right, so we're going to kind of break this one up by who are you talking to? And you will see some common themes among each of these subjects, and you also see some differences. And that's because your audience really matters a lot, both in your writing and in your work communications. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about employers. By employers, I mean the people who contract you, the people who are in charge of a project, and you're in a position where they're telling you what to do. Right now, I'm in both positions where at Sig Trent Games, I'm in charge of everything. And for my contract work, I'm working for somebody else, and I need to make them happy. So the first thing, and this is going to be a really reoccurring theme in almost every category, is building trust. So a big part of what you're doing in communication is building trust with the people that you are working with. Because when you start out in a working relationship, while some people may have some sense of trust based on your reputation or just on their inherent trust in humanity, a big part of every relationship is establishing that they can trust you and you can trust them. And the biggest way that that happens is through your communications. It also happens through the delivery of your work and the good work that you do. That is equally important, but it's going to start with communication, because you don't produce work right away, right? All you do is produce questions or comments or emails and things like that. So that is the first evidence that they're going to see of your work. And that is where you need to start building trust. And so that goes through all of these other points that we're going to talk about. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're working with a new employer is find out what it is they want. You need to have a really good understanding of what the mission is. And the best way to make sure that you have that is to first listen to what they're telling you, of course, like read everything that they write, listen to everything that they say, try to clear your mind when you're listening. Then take that, try to repeat it back to them in a way that you understand it, like your summary of what they are telling you. Because when you tell them the thing that they tell you, you will discover the misunderstandings that you have about what they're saying, and maybe any misunderstandings in the way you speak to them. And so if there is a misunderstanding, that's kind of expected. And then you come back and you either refine your understanding or you refine your explanation, so that you can get to a point where you're going, okay, we understand each other. The person who's going to be doing the work understands the mission that the person who's requesting the work has. And so once that happens, that is going to raise your trust level, right? It's like a game almost. Your trust level is going to go up. They're like, okay, they understand the mission. That's great. I can trust that they will be on the right path. And you can be like, well, I understand what they want. I trust that what I write will be useful and not hated when it comes around, right? So that's really good. Next thing is adapting to what they want. So like you will get your own idea of how a project should be or what's in there. And that's good. It's not bad for you to have your own ambitions and to bring creativity to a project, because that's what you're there for, right? But you also need to adapt that to what their goals and desires are, right? So if you want to inject your own ideas into something, you have to make sure that they are in the mold, in the form of the thing that is being requested. If that is not the case, then you need to do some communication back and forth, and you say, hey, I think there's a little bit of conflict here between what I think would be a really good idea and what you've requested. So please let me know if you like what I'm thinking or you want me to stick with what you're doing. And you need to follow those rules. You're not going to like bring them around or something. Don't do that. Like, your job as a contractor or somebody working for somebody else is to please them, to give them what they want, and then they will pay you for it, right? It's different when you're equal collaborators or something like that. This is employee-employer kind of relationship, right? So you need to do to them. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't bring anything that you have. You just need to make sure it fits in the mold, if that makes sense. All right. Next up, a reporting activity in progress, right? Now, not everybody likes to get a lot of reports. It just kind of depends on how busy the person is or whatever it is. But generally speaking, if you are making progress on a project, you should make that known to this person. If you are having trouble and you have a roadblock of some kind, you should also make that known to the people higher up, right? So keep them informed about where you're at. Now, you might think, oh man, things are going very badly. I'm a little worried about telling them. I'll make it up later. And then, that's not so good. You should tell them, hey, I'm a little bit behind on my schedule, but I think I can make that up a little bit later because I'm going to do this, right? And if that's a rational explanation, then they'll be down for it. And if it seems like you do that every week, then they're going to like, oh, hold up. We may need to shift the goalposts here because you're clearly not going to be able to make the final push and the deadline and everything like that. And then they can either bring another writer in or they can extend the deadline or whatever they have to do, right? It's so much better for the person in charge if they know where you are at and know about any problems well before they become insurmountable, right? So that kind of communication will build trust. Even if sometimes you give them news they don't want to hear, they're at least going to trust that if there is a problem, you will tell them and they won't be wondering about you. Prevents micromanagement, and it's just really good. So report where you're at, report what's going on. If everything's just going smoothly and on track, maybe you don't need to if you have a certain level of trust yet. But if the trust level is still kind of low and you get the sense that this is a person who's worried about what might be happening, then it's really a good idea to get that information out there. And if anything is going abnormally, then you need to talk about it, right? Don't keep that a secret. All right. Asking questions. Really important to ask questions. Really important that you feel generally free to ask questions of somebody. Try to make it so the questions are easy to answer. Yes, no questions are great. This, that, ABC questions are pretty good. Give people some options. Don't just go, well, what do you want me to do now? That's not very helpful. You can say, hey, would you like me to do A, B, or C? I'm not sure which of these is the best course. That kind of question is a lot better. Somebody can answer it very quickly and get you on your way. And it shows that you're already trying to think about the answer. You just want to make sure that your answer aligns with what they would prefer. And that, again, builds trust, makes everybody feel good about what's going on. And if you ask questions and get answers, then you can be sure that you're in the right direction. Now, if you are not getting answers to your question, that's definitely a problem. You should probably use your best judgment and continue to move forward. That's better than just sitting on your hands and going, well, until I get my answer, I can't do any work. Yeah, that might be kind of true. Like, you might be wasting your time in the end, but it's better to take that chance and say, hey, look, I did ask this question on this date. It's right here. I didn't get an answer, so I went ahead with this strategy, and I'm sorry, but that's what I wrote, right? Next time, next time, maybe answer my question. But that's what I always think, right? Like, well, if you wanted it, you should have answered the question and told me that's what you wanted, right? But, just try to keep it professional and try to keep it happy and do what you got to do in the end, right? But with all this communication stuff that I'm talking about, you also don't want to waste somebody's time. Don't ask trivial questions. If you're going to ask a question, try to answer the question yourself first. Like, take a serious stab at going, well, what seems obvious to me, right? and then maybe you can answer that yourself. Now, sometimes like during job interviews and stuff, they'll tell you, hey, look, ask some questions because it shows that you're interested and you're paying attention. And that is good for trust building. But as you get into that relationship and you've got some of the trust level built up a bit, then like just try not to waste anybody's time and try to stick to the questions. I think I had a question earlier late last night I was working on. I'm like, oh, and then as I write the question, I'm like, oh, like there's really only one good answer. I'm just going to go ahead with that, right? And so, blank that out. And also, it was just sort of a question. It was like, well, like it just changes like 6 words in the document. If the answer is something different, it's very easy for us to go back in editing and fix that. So let's just not worry about it and move forward. All right. So that is talking to the people that you're working for. What's next? Coworkers. Coworkers are super important. I love coworkers. My favorite kind of relationships are not boss and employee, but like equal partners working together on something. It is, let us say, harder to have a great coworker relationship sometimes than it is to have an authoritative relationship, because if you get into a stark disagreement, you don't really have a referee to figure things out. And you can also get into a point where everybody just goes in their own direction and they refuse to cooperate with each other. And then you get wildly divergent work, which is no good at all. So it takes a lot to have good coworkers. And again, building trust is key. And a big part of that building trust is to talk to each other, to compliment the other person's work, say, hey, I love this part of what you do. And, also let them know, hey, I think it could be stronger if you did things a little bit more like this, or let's agree to both a standard by which we can do this kind of work or this sort of process, so that we're just on the same page. So that's really important. I know this is a bit nebulous, but coworkers' relationships are a bit nebulous. Always try to be coordinating your work, right? So like 2 people working on a project or 6 people working on a project, if you are not talking to each other every week or so, touching base about what you're doing, you are naturally going to be going in some wild different directions, unless you have an overall ringmaster who is dealing with all this stuff and doing the coordination for you. That's a little bit of a different deal. But otherwise, you really want to be communicating with the people you're working with so that you're all on the same page and you're moving along. And if you have a question and you go, hey, I wonder if somebody else is doing that differently, ask them about it, right? Say, hey, how are you doing this? I'm doing it like this. So do that coordination. Try to coordinate your goals. So if you guys are working together on a project and you have a time frame, you go, well, okay, you're probably going to need this content by this date. I'm going to need that content by this date, and see that because I'm going to work on this part that's connected to that. So just make those really clear with each other, and just kind of like you had a boss almost. Like if you're going to miss one of those deadlines that you promised somebody else, let them know, and then give them as much as you can of what they need. Say, oh, I've got 70% of it done. Here's what I've got. If you need anything different on the missing pieces, let me know. So do that kind of coordination. Again, like if there's going to be a problem of some kind, if you get sick, whatever it is, don't just let your boss know. Let your coworkers know who you are interacting with in this regard, so that they can be prepared and make any adjustments that they need to make. Maybe they'll offer to help you out. Oh, you're going to be sick for a week. Well, hey, I can take on, I've got a little extra time. I can take on this other section for you. That way you don't fall behind, et cetera, right? So that kind of coordination is great. Manage resources together. Just kind of agree where your files are going to be, if you're going to share files, how you're going to do that, how you're going to communicate, how often you're going to communicate with each other. It helps because then if you don't hear, you say, oh, let's touch base every week, and they don't hear somebody for a while, well, maybe there's something wrong, and so you need to reach out, be a little more aggressive about making sure you talk to them. Also, be sure to offer help to people. If you see one of your coworkers struggling in some way, you can say, hey, is there a way that I can help you out? Or if you're struggling, reach out to your coworkers and say, hey, can somebody help me out? I'm totally stuck on what to write about this. Somebody else might have a brilliant idea, especially when they're not committed to having to write out the whole thing. They're like, oh, well, I would do this. And then you're like, well, that's great. I'm going to do that. So be sure to use your coworkers as a source of help, especially if they're more experienced than you, but even if they're not. And try to offer your help to your other coworkers. If you see them struggling, say, hey, is there anything I can do to help you out? Looks like you're having a rough time with that. I heard you're having trouble with the deadline. Is there any way that I can be of assistance? Maybe just going away, if that's what would help you, whatever the case is, right? All right. So how about people that are working for you? You're the boss, and they are, I don't want to say employee because so many of us work as freelancers in the business, but again, building trust. It's important for employees to have trust in their employers. Things like, yes, I will get paid on time. Yes, the things that I am told as far as project direction will stay that way until they tell me something different. And that, yes, I will get the guidance and help that I need in order to do my work. So this kind of gives you a preview of the sort of things you need to talk about. As the person in charge, you need to give clear instructions to people as to what you want. You need to have a firm idea. Or if you don't have a firm idea, communicate to them that you don't have a firm idea and that you need their help crystallizing things. That's okay too. You just have to be explicit with it. So if there is something that you want, you must communicate it. If you do not communicate to the people that are working for you, it is your fault. You're the one who has made a mistake, not them, because they didn't give you what you want if you didn't say what it was. Set expectations. Like if you have certain communication expectations, make sure to let them know what those are. If you have certain due date expectations, that's great too. Different people might have a different idea of what a first draft of a document is versus a final draft. People might have different names for those things. They might call it, the proto manuscript or the pre-editing manuscript, or there's all kinds of different names. So try to understand each other's language and set expectations for exactly what a deliverable looks like and what you expect for a completed contract, right? Keep your communications open. If you do not hear from your hires within a certain period of time that you are comfortable with in your relationship, reach out to them and let them know, hey, I haven't heard from you, what's going on? Try not to sound angry about it necessarily, but say, I would like to hear from you every week. The status, like how many words you've written or how you're feeling about the project, whatever it is, right? Or give me a list of questions every week, whether you think they're important or not. I want to hear what you're thinking about. So that's really good. Keep those communication lines open. And by all means, do request a certain amount of communication from people. That shows that you want to keep those doors open and that you care about what's going on. Because that will encourage them to talk to you if you say that you want that. Again, though, don't waste time. Don't send the people that are working for you on useless side quests or make them jump through a bunch of hoops that aren't going to make any difference in terms of the quality of the product or the organization needed in order to get it done, right? So be mindful of their time, and hopefully they'll be mindful of your time. All right, next up, talking to fans. Not every developer does this. Not every developer needs to do it. It's important to me, so I'm going to talk about it. Building trust. I think it's pretty much at the top of almost every list. It won't be at the top of the next one, but building trust with your fans is really important. There are a lot of things that go into that. It's very similar to the other things in that it's about setting up expectations. What can your fans expect? When will books come out? How big will the books be? How much are they going to cost? And then trying to be as true to whatever it is that you have said in the past as possible. Or if you have to deviate from that, which happens, explain to them why that is in the best way that you can. Never putting any blame on the fans for whatever it is you're doing, because they got nothing to do with it. They just want to know what's happening. So important that you build trust with them by being consistent in your communications and setting the tone of your communications. Look, if you have a corporate wall and the fans do not get to see behind the curtain, well, that's okay. It's a kind of way of doing business and it has some benefits. However, if you are transparent and you say you're transparent, then be transparent, right? So be consistent with however it is that you like to talk to fans. Listen to their desires. I think it's super important. Now, I will say there's a place for artists who just want to look, I make my work, and then who likes it, and who doesn't like it, doesn't like it. And that's okay. But I personally think it's a really good idea to the people that are loyal to you, that you listen to what they want and you try to go in directions that they suggest to you. You can't go in every direction because different people want different things, right? But be responsive, keep your ear to the ground and listen to your fans and ask them for their opinions whenever you get the opportunity to. It's important that you have your own sense of direction as well. I don't want to say that you just have to be responsive to everything that people tell you, right? I don't want that to be the case, but you just need to have the ear open. You need to be listening. You need to acknowledge what they say. And if I hear somebody who wants something that I cannot deliver to them, I will say, I hear what you're wanting. It's totally cool. It's not the direction that we're going in. So I'm sorry about that. But I think, a lot of other fans want this other thing, and that's what my personal vision is, so that's where we're going. All right. Offer thanks to the fans always for their support. They are the reason you're able to do what it is that you do. Never chide them for not wanting a product. Oh, you don't have to buy it. Well, yeah, no, of course they don't have to buy it. They'll make that decision. But, if you make something they hate, say, oh, I'm really sorry about that. we'll try to do better next time, right? Offering support to the fans. It's hard to explain how that works. For me, it usually comes in the form of encouraging fans to make their own homebrew and being interested in what they're doing, listening to their stories about the games that they're playing with your system and the characters they're building. I honestly enjoy all that stuff, and I just want to support them in doing it. Support is also in the products you make. Make sure that those products support the community, make it easy for them to play, make it easy for them to get into the game, that kind of thing. So, but this is mostly about communication. So it's really verbally offering support to the fans and saying, you're part of the community, we care about you, hope your life is going well, hope you get to play a lot of games, right? Also sometimes offering products at a low price for people who are short on money right now, but they still want to be part of the community and they still want to support you in some way. So have stuff at different price points so that people can be supportive. And finally, communicating with fans, you want to create a community. You want people to feel like they belong to the fan group. I don't like cultish like followings or anything like that. I think that stuff's terrible. But you do want to say, hey, yeah, I'm a fan of this game, and the other people who play this game are really cool. This is a great part of gaming. And so you definitely want to support that and in your communications, and to acknowledge that the fans are connected to the company. They're not members of the company necessarily, but they're part of the larger community that the company supports. All right. Finally, the general public. So there's a difference between fans and the larger gaming community or the whole world if you're a big company. And so here's the one place where building trust is not at the top of the list. Building awareness is at the top of the list. Your number one mission with your communication to the general public is, hi, we exist. This is what we do. It's really cool. You want to come and become a fan? You want to join in? Or maybe you just want to buy one of these things. You don't need to stick around, but you think it's a pretty cool thing to have on your shelf, and you can share it with kids, whatever you want to do. So yeah, building awareness is the number one thing you're doing with the general public. However, number two is building trust. So you want your company to have a good reputation, to be a good member of the overall gaming community, even the people who don't play your game. You want to be seen as a friendly bunch who make games for other cool gamers and work with other companies in a supportive way to make the overall ecosystem better. That's just good. So definitely build trust by being nice. I think that's the main way you build trust with the general public. You don't have anything you owe the general gaming public as a game publisher, and they don't have anything they owe you. There's no communication requirements, so it's just generally about being nice and supportive of others. Staying connected to the culture, I think, is important. It's a little dangerous for a company not to know what's going on, what's being talked about in the larger community. That doesn't mean that like online message boards and Facebook groups and stuff are the gaming community, right? They are a segment, and a very vocal segment, a very engaged segment, but there's a lot of gamers who are not engaged in that way. They might read those things, or they might not have any connection with them whatsoever, and they just connect to their friendly local game store or a website or whatever it is, right? People connect in different ways. So generally, try to keep your ear to the ground wherever you can for all those different channels, so that you have a sense of what people are feeling, and that'll help you communicate with them and build trust. Target the right audience while you're trying to build awareness. There are a lot of people who don't care what you're doing. They will never care what you're doing. And if you keep telling them what you're doing, it will be very annoying, right? So you do kind of want to find what channels your audience is in and focus your awareness building in those areas when possible, and not be seen as just some terrible spammer. On the other hand, broad reach, if you want to have a big game company, is kind of the only way to go. So you do have to forge out into new territories. Just be respectful of their time and tastes. Finally, again, not wasting time. Try not to put out a lot of communications with the general public. The general public doesn't care about. Right? It's just not worth it. Not worth your time. Not worth their time. It can be a little difficult because many of them don't care what you're doing. But there it is. All right, so that's communication. That's like very surface level, and yet it's still like a huge topic. So I have a lot to say on that. I do pride myself as being a good communicator. Otherwise, I suppose I wouldn't do these videos every week to try and communicate with everybody. I like communicating, so it's one of my passions. All right, well, what kind of games have I been playing this week? And Anne as well. This week, I retreated back to just playing Dungeons and Dragons online. It is my game I play when I'm very busy. Because I can just log in for a couple hours, do a few quests, level a character, fiddle with my gear, and I'm out. And I don't really think about it a whole lot. Right now, that's exactly what I've been doing this week. Just picking a random character, working towards gaining a level, and then I gain a level, I do my gear, and then I pick another character. We're doing a Halloween event in DDO right now, Delira's Graveyard. You kind of go out You kill a bunch of undead. You get candies and stuff. You turn those in to do quests. You get other candies. You turn those candies in for cool prizes. A lot of neat cosmetic gear, some useful stat gear and stuff. It's a nice casual event. I was able to listen to a cool YouTube that just play DDO and kill undead monsters in the graveyard. Perfectly enjoyable evening. Good way to relax. Right now, DDO, this is a good time for Dungeons & Dragons Online. They have a special code. They do this kind of every year in the wintertime around the holidays. This year's code is Gather Your Party. So if you play DDO and you go into the DDO store and you type in Gather Your Party in the little box at the bottom left, then you will get access to a huge number of quests. And also things like 32-point builds and some races, I think, and stuff like that. So a whole bunch of stuff, all completely 100% for free. All you got to do is log into the game, make an account, put in that code, you get all that stuff. It's a ton of content. It's an old game. It's like almost 20-year-old game. So it's got gobs of content. It is a free play kind of a game. I mean, you could sub and you get access to all that stuff when you subscribe, but for free, just a whole bunch of quests to run. It keep you busy for many, many hours of entertainment. Well worth it. So if you want to play DDO, the wintertime is always a great time to jump in. There's a little lag on the servers at the moment, but it is getting better. Maybe play a little outside of prime time. You won't get so much of it. It's been pretty reasonable right now. It's a good fun game. I love it. It takes a bit of getting into, but it's got these dungeon master narrations. It feels a lot like a role-playing game in many of the ways that count. So it's dear to my heart. Okay. Nomad Ann's Twitch channel has been going strong this week, and she's still playing Crime Scene Cleaner, in which it's a combination of a power washing game where you just wash up a big place and kind of run a little washing business, and kind of a murder mystery game where you figure out what's going on with the crimes that were committed that you're cleaning up after. It's not perhaps the most wholesome profession ever, but it's pretty fun. It's got a little bit of a story to it, and she is achievement chasing. My dear wife is one of those people who can sit down with a game and try to get every achievement in the game, and has often succeeded at doing so. I am not sure I have more than 1 or 2 games I've ever done that with. The games I tend to like to play often have hundreds of achievements. It's very difficult, but strategy games are just like that, and you got to play a whole playthrough just to get one weird achievement. Very difficult. Anyway, I'm very proud of her accomplishments in that regard. So go over while she's still playing, check it out. Nomad Ann's Twitch channel, Crime Scene Cleaner this week. Who knows what might be next. All right, so life in general. My ears are all better. That's cool. My treatment is finished. I'm hearing normally. My ears are not swollen up. I'm very happy about this. This week, my beautiful, wonderful wife has made some of the best food. Some 5-star, 10 out of 10 tacos today. Those were amazing. And yesterday, she had made some dumplings early in the week, and we had the first batch of them because we finally got the soy sauce and stuff that's needed for the dipping. Oh my God, they're so good. I love Chinese jiaozi style dumplings, and my wife makes them like no other. Kind of little to my taste, where they're a little meatier, big chonky boys, and oh my gosh, so good. All right, thank you, darling. And just trying to keep my mad writing streak going. I did sort of taper off a little bit last week from what I did the week before, but I'm trying to go hard. I got a little bit of time left in what's this week. This week ends for me in about 3 or 4 hours, so I'm going to try to crank in some more words. I'm not going to quite totally get to where I wanted to be, but I set a wildly ambitious goal that's just not too realistic, but that's fine, because I do need to push. So I just keep pushing on that boundary, and we'll get back to where I need to be. But it's going really good. The words are flowing out. I know exactly what I'm going to write about as soon as I get this video done. Okay, so I hope you guys have some stuff you're excited about doing this week, and you can be super productive and meet a lot of your goals. I'll try to do the same thing, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.